This is my farm.
Don't come out here and tell me what I need.
I need solutions that work and market options that are worth my time.
Small town support that sees the bigger picture.
A global network that empowers us. A co-op that's there for us every day.
Thank you for joining us this week for the Meet the Farm Hands video segment. I'm your host, Hannah Pagel, and today we are joined with Tara Smith with the Torrey Associates. Tara, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So to start off, let's just get a timeline of your career let's go back to the very beginning, and how did you end up out here in DC?
Yeah, so I'm a farm kid from Illinois, grew up on a corn and soybean farm, went out east to Davidson College in North Carolina to play volleyball, actually. So wandered pretty far from home. And while I was there, I did a summer internship up here in DC and just fell in love with the city. So there was no turning back at that point in time.
Gotcha. And so when you first moved out here in DC, who were you working for, and track the timeline there?
Yeah, so I was working for a grain company that has long since been bought and sold several times since. Had a wonderful boss named Ann Tutwiler that I really enjoyed working for. Gave me a great lay of the land. And I was doing classwork actually at Georgetown at the same time. So, and that opportunity opened literally every door I've had opened since then to move my career forward in Washington, D.C. It was a great experience.
Okay. And before coming to Michael Torrey, where were you at?
Sure. So once I graduated from school, I actually worked for a company called Promar International doing some ag business consulting. Then actually left for 2 years and went and did my MBA at University of Michigan. Thought this was going to be my big opportunity to move back home, get back to the Midwest, maybe work for an agribusiness back at their Midwest headquarters. And I promptly ended up right back in Washington, D.C., working for Monsanto, which was also a great opportunity. Spent a few years at Monsanto before I moved over to American Farm Bureau Federation and had an opportunity to work with one of your other farm hands, Mary Kay Thatcher. And then I went and worked for Pat Roberts on the Senate Ag Committee, which was just an amazing experience to have the opportunity to work for someone that is such an institution in farm policy and has had such an impact on farm policy. And after that, I came here to Michael Torrey Associates.
Okay. So what kind of drew you to Washington, D.C., and kind of explain a little bit more about like the pull from wanting to go back home and coming out here?
Yeah, it's interesting because, growing up on a farm, I couldn't get out fast enough. I wanted to get away from the farm. I wanted to spread my wings. And then I think as soon as I left and got off of the farm, I realized how amazing the farm was and what a great opportunity I had to grow up as a kid on a farm. And so after that, I was just sort of looking for my way to get back into agriculture without being on the farm. And DC really gave me that opportunity.
Gotcha. So when you were at American Farm Bureau, you worked on the Farm Bill. Kind of explain a little bit about what your challenges were working on the Farm Bill, or just what that was like.
Yeah, Farm Bureau is an interesting place. I loved working there. It's such a great family of folks, and I still keep in touch with a lot of the folks even back in the States that I had the opportunity to work with at that time. But Farm Bureau has a really unique perspective because they're a national organization and they represent every commodity and livestock and everything under the sun. And so it's a real balancing act for them. And so I really enjoyed that because it really requires you to take a step back and sort of balance priorities and take a really balanced, thoughtful approach when you're developing policy.
Gotcha. Was there any challenges that you faced working on the Farm Bill itself, or any one particular Farm Bill?
Oh, every Farm Bill is a challenge. I learned from the best working on that particular Farm Bill. So that would have been the '08 Farm Bill. Ultimately, having Mary Kay as a mentor was fantastic. Really taught me the ropes. But every Farm Bill's had its challenges since then. I mean, I worked for Chairman Roberts on the Ag Committee during the first 2 renditions of what became the 2014 Farm Bill, and so they all have their special personalities, if you will.
And when you were on the committee working for Senator Roberts, what would you say was probably the highlight of working on that committee?
Working for him specifically. I mean, again, he's just such an institution, and I think about the impact that he has had on farm policy and, you know, what my family dealt with on the farm. He has a huge impact on them and on every farmer. So I could not have asked for a better boss and someone to learn under. He knows more in his pinky about farm policy and crop insurance than I will probably ever know. So I was really blessed.
Awesome. So I'm really curious, why did crop insurance really spark your interest?
Yeah. So I learned a little bit about crop insurance working for Mary Kay, but she was really always the guru when it came to crop insurance. And then, of course, when I went to go work for Chairman Roberts, that was his number one farm bill priority was crop insurance. So I had to school up pretty quickly. And you know what I love about it is that it's such a perfect example of a public-private partnership. It's an example of a way that farmers can actually help manage their own risk, where, you know, they're paying into the policies, and the private sector, not just the taxpayer, is backing up those policies. And you know, as a conservative, that sort of model really appeals to me, and I see what it does for farmers on their farms and how much it helps them in the rough years. And I just am completely all in on crop insurance and really believe that it's a beneficial tool that hopefully we can help make it better over the coming years and be sure that more farmers can utilize the program to their benefit. So.
And you've been at the forefront of building a coalition centered around crop insurance. Kind of explain a little bit more about like why you wanted to start that and how you see that shaping farm policy in the future.
Yeah, I mean, coalitions are so important in this town. There is very little that you can accomplish as just a single association or a single group. And particularly when it comes to crop insurance, I think it became very obvious that any one group trying to carry all of the weight was probably not going to work. So it was a matter of we can either all fail individually as organizations trying to protect and preserve the program, or we can work together. And you know, we have great partners that work together to protect and preserve the program, and it's amazing the stories you get to hear and the perspective you get to see by having a lot of different voices around the table, and it's worked really well.
What would you say has been your biggest farm policy victory since you've been here in DC?
Yeah, wow. Well, I think just making it through the 2018 Farm Bill without any cuts to crop insurance was pretty fantastic. But I think the one that probably is at the forefront is in 2015 when we had a $3 billion cut to crop insurance sort of airdropped into a budget bill. None of us saw it coming. It was actually my husband's birthday, and we were out to dinner when I got the phone call, and the poor guy ended up eating his entire birthday dinner by himself. And you know, the coalition really came together very quickly to help provide the backing that our congressional champions needed to ensure that got reversed, and it got reversed really quickly. And you just don't see those kind of short-term, quick turnaround victories that are that definitive in Washington, D.C. So I think, to me, it was a testament to the coalition and all the people who were able to come together and put effort behind that.
How did it turn around so quickly, or like what really sparked that?
Well, I have to tell you, I was worried. It was a cut to crop insurance companies specifically, and I was really worried that night. It kind of kept me up wondering if farm groups and lenders and others who maybe weren't directly being cut would actually come to the table and sort of come to the defense of the program overall. And so the next morning, when we had folks on the phone asking what they could do and really doing an amazing amount of outreach, I think that made a huge difference. I've never on an agriculture issue had leadership tell me to call the dogs off. And we literally got to a point where they said, we're going to fix this. Please call off the dogs. We're getting so many phone calls and emails. And again, on an agriculture issue, that's pretty amazing. So
Awesome. Well, speaking of dogs, tell me a little bit about Chesney, your dog.
the queen bee. Yes, I have a 15-year-old yellow lab. You can see her featured sometimes on the Pet Food Institute social media account, or if you ever get to their offices, her portrait is hanging there. She's a very sweet old lady, and she is definitely the grande dame. But all of my friends could tell you stories about her enrier and younger days, for sure. She's a real gem.
And I also hear you're pretty good with a shotgun. Is that right?
Yes, whenever I can actually find time to get out and go shoot, I love to go shoot. It's just a great stress relief. I'm not a golfer. I'm not one who likes to do that. And so shooting's really sort of my outlet for getting some downtime and some away time and some outside time. And back in the day, I used to take Chesney with me, and she absolutely loved it. She's gotten a little bit too old to kind of make it around the sporting clays field these days, but she loved it too.
So are you shooting at moving targets, sitting targets?
Yeah, so mostly skeet, so moving targets, and then all shotgun shooting. I'm really a shotgun person. I'm not worth anything with a rifle. So yeah, skeet, sporting clays, like I said, a great opportunity to get outside and kind of blow things up. It's fun.
How did this hobby kind of like spark for you?
You know, it's funny. I didn't hunt or shoot growing up. And my dad will admit now that he's sad he didn't teach me how to do it when I was younger. He taught my brothers, and he just sort of assumed that because I was a girl, I wouldn't want to. So we've had some discussions about how interesting that dynamic is. But when I got out here to DC, I actually met a group of friends that used to go shoot all the time, and they were kind enough to take me out with them. And then I got a couple opportunities to go hunting, sort of for work purposes, which is really fun. And it stuck. I got addicted to it. So
Nice. So I also hear you're a pretty good gourmet cook. Is there any particular like signature dish that you would throw together for a guest when you're hosting, or what do you like to make?
That's funny. My friends have been talking. I love to cook. Mostly I love to host. You know, I'm very fortunate to have a really strong DC friend family here, which is really nice. And so what I really like to do is just invite people over to the house and host, even if we're just throwing some meat on the grill and I'm putting together a couple of sides, just to have everybody around the table. That's just a really fantastic thing to do, because we used to do that in my family on the farm every Sunday. And so this is my way of sort of making up for that. I'm also very blessed because I have a husband who is a wonderful cook as well. So now I get to tag team those responsibilities. So
Great. And tell me a little bit more about your husband, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know what I did before Mark. So I met him actually with a group of friends down in the Virgin Islands on St. John when I was down there for my birthday for a week. And a couple of my girlfriends and I walked into his restaurant and started chatting and had a couple of drinks. And I went back the next day and wanted to see him again. And then the next day he took me out to dinner, and next thing you know, he's moved to DC, which is kind of amazing. And I don't know what I would do without him. He's pretty fantastic. But he owned a restaurant down there, so he very much enjoys being in the kitchen as well.
And is it true that when you guys were dating that he signed up for an Agri-Pulse subscription so he could better understand the work that you do?
It is true. That's so funny. I'd kind of forgotten about that. Yes, he did. And then he would sometimes scoop me because he would get on Twitter, and I'm not really a Twitter person. So every once in a while he would send me a text message and tell me what was going across Twitter on Agri-Pulse, and he would have me totally scooped. So it was kind of fantastic. He was really good about that.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate his subscription. So, who would you say has been a mentor to you in your career while you've been out here?
Well, I think I've mentioned Mary Kay. Again, I just learned so much about policy and about how to really sort of be aggressive on issues, which sometimes I think as a woman in DC, you are afraid to be really aggressive. But anybody who knows Mary Kay knows that, don't get in her way, because if she's got something that she's fighting for, she's all in. And so I think that was a great thing to learn from her. And then also just Chairman Roberts, watching him and sort of how he's able to bring people together on issues, the 2018 Farm Bill being a great example. I learned a lot from that experience. So.
And I hear you also like to mentor other people interested in farm policy. Maybe explain a little bit about why you think it's important to mentor other people, such as like myself or younger generation.
Yeah, I think it's really important because I think about my path through DC, and it's a little bit different, right? I didn't start out on the Hill. I have an MBA, which is a bit of an odd degree when you work in DC. And so I like to spend time with some of the younger folks that come through DC and are wondering what to do and how to pursue their career, just to be sure they know that there is no set path. There is no one way to do things and do things right, or it's just not all going to work out and it's all going to fall apart. That there are a lot of different ways to get to the end result you're looking for in the career that you're looking for. And so to be sure folks are just kind of following their heart and looking at the opportunities in front of them, and that they're looking to open doors, not close doors. So.
How would you say farm policy has changed from when you first got here to present day?
Oh gosh, just in the last 2 years, farm policy has changed so much. I don't know as I ever thought I would see a day when we would see something like MFP payments and have that kind of money going out the door to farmers because of trade complications without any congressional approval. I remember the days when we were working on USDA disaster programs, and it was a few $100 million, and you would have thought the sky was falling. And so this is a very different day and age in farm policy. I have sort of enjoyed watching crop insurance come into its own. I think when I first came to DC, crop insurance was sort of an afterthought to Title I farm programs and ad hoc disaster programs even, and to sort of watch the evolution of crop insurance to be a bigger tent and have more and more farmers be able to find risk management tools under that tent has been pretty amazing to watch.
How do you see crop insurance playing out in the future? Do you see it changing or staying kind of similar to what it is right now, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great program, and I think there's always room for improvement. And so, I think looking forward, particularly after the last couple of years we've had, looking at the gaps in the program, where did it work? Where did it not work? There's a lot of flexibility within the crop insurance program. So identifying those gaps and starting to work on how you can fill them and use the program to fill them, I think is really an important part of the process.
And before we wrap up, we always like to end the segment on this question, but if you could go back to day one of your career, knowing what you know now, what advice would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. That's really a tough one. I would tell myself to relax a little bit more. I've always been a little uptight, as anybody who knows me would probably be able to tell you. I'm pretty high energy, high strung. But taking that time to really unwind, I've realized as I've gotten older and wiser is really important to do. It makes you better at what you do day in and day out if you take a step back every once in a while and just relax.
Awesome. Well, Tara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.